This is 2LO, the London station of the British Broadcasting Company calling. 2LO calling.
My brother came home one day and he was at the table and he said, "Dad, I'm going to build a wireless set." My father looked at him and he said, "Oh yes." He said, "My friend at work's building one and he's been telling me about it and I'm sure I could build one." So my father said, "Oh, I see." I'm sure that my father didn't really know what my brother was talking about. I don't think he'd ever heard what a wireless set was. I was 14. Yes, 921. When we did have the Cat's Whisker wireless, we used to get 2LO London and 5IT Birmingham. But my brother, he said, "I'm sure I can build it, Dad." He said, "But I want a piece of wood. A big piece of wood about 10 by 8, something like that, or perhaps a little bit bigger." So my dad said, "Well, there's plenty of wood in the shed. Go and help yourself to what you want." So he got this piece of wood and he carved all the edges and he sandpapered it. It was beautiful at the end of the week. And of course, Ted was apprenticed to woodworking and cabinet making. So he'd got all the tools and everything to do this lovely carving round the edge of this board that he'd got. I said, "Where are you going to buy all the stuff, Ted?" And he said, "I'm going down the market," the rag market it was in Birmingham. Every Saturday dinner, of course they work mornings on a Saturday. When he came out of work Saturday dinner time, he'd go down the rag market, and I can remember the first week he came back with this cardboard coil, like the coil you'd have in a toilet roll, only about 3 times larger. But every week, or about once in a fortnight, Ted would come home with some little piece for his wireless. One day he came home with a cat's whisker. It was like a little instrument with a lever on it, and there was like a needle point sticking out of the end of it. And at the far end there was a hole in this little gadget, and he said, "That's where the crystal's got to go, in that hole there. When I bought it, that's where it's going." He said, "And this needle," and he kept levering it backwards and forwards, "this needle's got to stick into the crystal." He built it up in the bedroom, up in the attic. The boys lived in the attic. We got attics. "The higher you are," he said, "the better will be the reception. So I'm going to build it up in the attic." And he had this board on the floor in the attic, and he'd built all these other bits and pieces round it. And he said to me, "Win," he said, "I've only got to buy the earpiece now, and then I shall be able to see if we can hear." So the next week he came home very proud with this earpiece, and it was round, it was about 2 inches across, and it had got the earpiece like in the middle. And he said, "All I've got to do today, Win, is fix this onto that piece of wire, and then I can listen and see if it's a success." And couldn't wait to finish his dinner before up into the attic he went. And my father was sitting in his armchair. He was a big reader, my father. He was sitting in the armchair with a book, interesting book. You could tell he was enjoying it. And I could hear Ted running down the stairs. He came down and he said, Dad, I can hear a band." And my father said, "Oh, no, love. No." He said, "I can. It's coming out through the earpiece." "No," he said, "it's a band down the road." We often used to get bands in the roads in those days. And I stood there, you see, and my father said, No. And he said, "Oh, come on, Dad." He said, "Come and listen." He said, "I'm sure it's a band coming through the set." "No, can't be," he said. "No, it couldn't possibly be." So he looked very crestfallen, my brother, and he looked at me and he said, "You come and listen, Win." So I hurried up the stairs, and there was this set in the middle of the attic floor. It was only this short wire, you see. He said, "You'll have to kneel down." So I leant down, you see, and I put this earpiece, and I could definitely hear something, but very, very faint. So he said, "Try the cat's whisker on a different place on the crystal." So of course there I was, dabbing this cat's whisker onto the... And at last it was a bit louder.
Brown eyes, why are you blue? Brown
And I said, oh yes, it's an orchestra. I can hear an orchestra. He said, it's the Savoy Orpheans coming from London. I said, oh Ted, how could it come all that way? He said, it is, it's coming from London, the sound waves. So I said, well, how could it get through the walls of our house? He said, well, sound waves will go through anything. It doesn't matter where it is, it'll go through anything. But anyway, I thought, well, it's marvellous, isn't it? Are you sure it's coming from London? Yes, it's the Savoy Orpheans band. And I said, oh, I must get Dad. And I ran down the stairs. Ted stayed up there in the attic. And I came downstairs and my father was still there reading his book in the armchair. And I caught hold of his hand and I said, Dad, you must come and listen. You must come. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I said, there's an orchestra playing. No. I said, it is. It's the Savoy Orpheans band coming all the way from London. So he looked at me and he said, shook his head and he said, I can't believe it. I can't think how it could possibly be, he said. But I'll come. And he got up with a sigh, as if, what a nuisance. He was in the middle of an interesting book. And he put the book down. Up the stairs my father went, and I went out into the garden to tell my mother. Mum said, oh, I can't believe that. And she went on with the gardening, you see, and I ran into the house and back up into the attic. And when I got inside the attic, my father, he was quite a big man, he was kneeling down on the floor and he'd got this earpiece to his ear. And his face was absolutely bright red, kneeling down on the floor with his head right down because it was only 2 foot of wire anyway. And he was saying, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. And his face was all bewildered and couldn't understand. He was flushed and his eyes were sort of glistening. I can't believe it, he said. It's a miracle. And from that moment onward, my father was a lover of wireless right up until the day that he died. It was about 1924 when they brought electricity down the road, and my father was able to buy, and by that time you could buy kits. They got better and better, you see, improved, and people would say, oh, we've got a valve set. Oh, my word, if they got a valve set, they were important. It was much better, you see. Time went on, and then my father had a radiogram. Oh, he could put on the records as well as have the wireless all in one cabinet. He thought that was absolutely wonderful. And he never lost any of his enthusiasm for wireless. He always loved it. And he used to listen to it all the time that he could. The serials that were on. He listened to every programme of Mrs. Dale's Diary, never missed it. He thought that was wonderful.
Meet the Dales, the new radio family. The Dale family live in a cosy house at Kenton, Middlesex, where Dr. Dale has been a GP for the last 25 years.
What a good sermon, don't you think, Jim?
Oh, excellent.
But sad, rather disturbing.
Well, the world is a disturbing place, mother-in-law.
And of course, as soon as the Archer started, he listened to that, and he listened to that right up until he died. And he was 88 when he died. He never missed an Archer serial at all. I can see him now on a summer's day, walking down the garden to his favourite seat, carrying his little portable set with him, and he'd have it on the bench by the side of him. He knew everything that was coming on the wireless, always. Right from that first day up in the attic until he died, he never lost the magic of it all.